Yay, look what dropped from heaven. So welcome to our first class outside at our new house. And we are going to do a class on the lungs. But we always know whenever I say lungs or heart, that it really is always the lungs together with the heart and the small intestines and large intestines. So let's start by coming into wide kneed child's pose with a twist. So you take your knees as wide as they go, big toes touching. And then you can stretch out in child's pose for a breath. And then you're gonna come up onto your elbows, or 2 breaths even. Take a full inhale and just sigh it out through your mouth, like you're fogging up the mat. Let's take another breath. It feels so good to remember how to breathe so deeply. And then come up onto your elbows and thread your right arm behind your left arm and bring your right ear onto your yoga mat. You can leave your left arm where it is, or you can stretch it up, bend your elbow, and let it just kind of wrap behind you. Your fingers might find the inside of your thigh like Pear's did, or they might not, but you want to be able to relax here. And now that we've found ourselves in a new shape, again, take a full inhale and exhale all the way. I sometimes imagine all of the different forms that we take in our yoga poses as training us to be alive in different situations and different shapes. So what is the most intimately connected to being alive for us here on earth? It is our breath. It is this one part of us that has to keep on working from moment to moment. You can't take a break and come back a week later or 14 years. So while you stay in this pose, just take a couple moments to notice what's going on around you. You can hear different noises. Maybe you hear traffic or people noises. Or maybe you hear some dog going crazy noises. We can hear the wind in the trees. Far away, we can hear some cars. If we were to listen really closely, there's a big wild oregano patch that has lots of bees, big fat bumblebees in it. This morning, there were tons of butterflies in it. And then unwind and come back onto your elbows and thread your left arm behind your right arm. Bringing this time your left ear to the ground. Maybe stretching your right arm up, bending your elbow, and letting your arm wrap behind you. Take a full breath in, really noticing the shape that you're in. Notice what it feels like to exhale all the way. You can take a couple moments even to dedicate your class to somebody, especially someone who either has recently passed over from life to death or is struggling with something or has a hardship that has recently struck them in their life. Take some time now after your dedication. So just imagine as far away from yourself as you can, out deep into the cosmos, amongst the stars and the planets. And from that far away place, just take a moment and maybe look at your biography, look at yourself. Kind of like the epic cosmic eagle gaze. And then with your imagination, travel all the way into your thinking and notice how your thinking has been so far today. And then with your next exhale, unwind from this pose, slide your knees together and let your arms come back behind you in embryo pose. Take a couple of breaths here in embryo pose. And now that we've noticed our thinking a little bit, take a moment to notice your feeling. Probably have more than one feeling. We are such wonderfully complex humans. Then inhale, roll up. Hair flip is optional. Nicely done. And turn around or spin and stretch out into spin for pear. You don't need to spin, perhaps. Stretch out into Sphinx. So get your elbows just underneath your shoulders and then slide them slightly forward. This can be a nicer, more passive place to rest. Let your legs relax comfortably behind you. If your lower back is fine and healthy, just take your legs comfortably wide. If your lower back is a little tender and you want to be protective of it, slide your legs closer together. And you're always welcome to slide your elbows further forward and let your ribs cage settle to the ground to be even more gentle on your lower back. Take a full inhale. Feel what it feels like to breathe in this shape. You might even notice the sweetness and the fullness of the breath when we're paying attention to it. And you've checked into your thinking and your feelings. Take a couple moments to notice the energy in your body. And we don't really separate out the energy of our body with how our body's feeling. So you can do those both at the same time. Take another full inhale and really feel your body as you take this inhale. And feel your body as you exhale. You might even just take another sweet moment and just remember like, oh my gosh, how cool is it to have a body? Throughout our day, we find ourselves more and less in our body. So just notice like, imagine like sitting at the computer for a couple hours and like we totally forget we have a body. We get so into this like our brain and ideas and what we're seeing on the screen, and it's nearly as if our body drops away. Can happen when we're doing work as well, especially theoretical work. But when we notice our body, we really are much more able to celebrate life. Now, just as our imagination can reach these incredibly long distance away and incredibly complex ideas or sophisticated understandings of all sorts of things, in our own body, we can discover the entire cosmos. Not just our physical world or our physical earth. But maybe more recognizable, we can recognize these elements of earth, that we are made of earth, of water, of air, even fire. With your next inhale, maybe extend your arms, lift your chest. You can even lift your gaze. And then with your exhale, just lower your body down to the ground, stacking your forearms and just resting your forehead on your forearms or looking to one side or the other. And here again, take a nice, sweet, unhurried breath. And then we're going to bring our hands underneath our shoulders and come up onto your hands and knees first. And from there, you're going to slide your arms forward, moving into Anahata Asana. So the seat for your heart, the pose for our hearts, Anahata. If it's uncomfortable for you to put your forehead on the ground, you can always bend one arm. So it's like you're silently dabbing. No, you just have your forehead on your forearm and one arm stretched out. You can switch in middle halfway through if you want. You want to feel that your knees are right underneath your hips. Or I guess what feels more is that your hips are right over your knees. So it's not the pose you do in a room full of strangers for the first time usually. Or here, let me show you some yoga. Check out this yoga pose. We don't take like that selfie photo in this pose so often. But breathe in and discover what it's like today to breathe into this shape in your sweet body. So you think of the elements of your body have been in the cosmos forever. And whether we enter this imagination from spiritual teachers or biology, we're starting to recognize now that in every cell of our body, we have a relationship to our ancestors. And not only a relationship, but you could even feel that our ancestors still live in each and every one of our cells. So not only does our body house the elements of the earth, or Mother Earth, and imbued with sunlight from Father Sun, but all of your relations, all of your ancestors, your lineage still vibrates, oscillates, and moves with your breath in your aliveness. Take 10 more full deep breaths here. And after your 10th breath, either just slide forward to lie on your belly or slide back to come into child's pose. If you're finding yourself coming to the end of your 10th breath, just again for a moment, or not for a moment, you're going to keep doing this even after class. Take a sweet breath in. Feel what you breathe out with your exhale. Notice when we turn our attention to our breath, we're marrying the mind and the body together. Inhale, roll up. And you may want to turn to extend your legs. Sorry, Auntie. Extend your legs on your yoga mat, but we're coming into dragonfly. So you take your legs out into a wide straddle. If you're really tight in your hamstrings, you can roll up a blanket or sit on a pillow or a stack of books. Would you like a blanket, dear?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hi, Bumblebee. Hola. And then I notice, even though you know the pose, you're waiting for me to take you into the pose. We don't often want to come here. It might be a little bit of a tender pose, but inhale, lift up tall, and then roll down or just lay down, depending on what works for your body. Let your forehead rest either on your hands. You can even stack your hands, like, or maybe your chin is resting on your chest and your head's just thinking about the ground. But take a nice full breath in and feel what it feels like to breathe into this pose and this moment right now. And sometimes when we breathe into our body, when we breathe out of our body, we experience pain. And we experience the suffering of our body. And often we can find that we just want to move away from that suffering, to distance ourselves from that pain, as we often do with whether it's painkillers or distractions. But today on your yoga mat, just take some courage and time to breathe into it without trying to push it away. We start to notice how with some suffering, it's obvious why we're having that suffering. You know, if you walked into a chair last night, you might have a big bruise and you hit it with your hand and you feel the suffering in your body, but you know why you're feeling that pain. But then when we remember, we start to be curious, perhaps, about why we have a pain that we have no idea of its origins. And then we might remember that we carry in our bodies all of our ancestors and the whole cosmos. So maybe we're feeling pain that our mother felt, or a father, or a grandfather, or a great, 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 great grandmother. Or maybe even the pain of a people or animal or mineral even that has suffered in the eons that the cosmos has been alive. But here we are. Feeling it now. And how do we start to find an antidote to that suffering? What can we do in our present moment? And we'll notice that with different pains, with different suffering, we have different options. but that we have this possibility to generate joy in our bodies as much as we have this crazy infinite reach into the universe to feel our suffering. And right now, it might be just enough to come up out of the pose. So start to roll up. And let's just take a She-Ra moment, a He-Man moment. Push down with your hands, let your butt lift up or get active. And then bring your legs around, maybe shake them out. And let's just do a little massaginess. So squeeze your thighs, jiggle your wiggles, massage your kneecaps, feel underneath your knees. Take your hands down your legs. You can even bend your knees. Maybe your toes are frighteningly like a very cold version of yourself. Squeeze onto them. And then we're going to lift back up and we're going to do another forward bend. So if you want to elevate your hips, sit on something again. And you really want to sit at the edge of it. So it's what it helps you do is roll your pelvis forward, which lends the length to your hamstrings. You can separate your legs just a little bit, like comfortably, imagining that one day you could just rest your ribs down in between your thighs. That'd be probably your ribs would go between your knees. So you're very, very small up top. Okay. And then lift up tall, wiggle your butt back, stretch your heart forward first, always trying to lead with your heart, and gently release your head, feeling the stretch from the back of your heels all the way, the back of your knees, back of your thighs, through your amazing complex group of butt muscles, all the way up your spine, into your neck. You can even imagine, if not actually feel, the skin on your skull stretching. So when we start to recognize with every inhale, we meet not only ourselves in our body right now, but we meet the world and cosmos, history. And we might recognize that some of the suffering does come, or we recognize it in our mother and our father. And through our breath, we can start to find with the exhale, we have more compassion for them in their suffering. We recognize that we understand more. So we start to notice on our inhale, we can experience our body and the gift of our breath, the gift of life. And with our exhale, we have an opportunity to allow our understanding to lead to compassion, to lead to understanding of other human beings, of other flawed beings. And we start to find that if we can heal our body or listen to our body and be with our body, that it starts to liberate us from some of our suffering. And this liberation also gives us more capacity to meet the other human beings who are suffering. Notice if you're holding back or if you're trying to distract yourself from the edges of the pose, and see if maybe you can soften into the edges a little bit more. And then with your inhale, roll up. And I feel like this moment calls for a lion. So, well, that was a tiger, wasn't it? Bring your hands back behind you, put your feet on the ground, lift up your hips, drop your head back, stick out your tongue, look at your third eye, and with a whisper, roar like a lion or a lioness. 2 more times. Bring your hips back down. And we're gonna do, you might have to wipe off your chin. You're not as furry as a lion. Maybe you are as furry as a lion. And then we're gonna do one more little yang pose. We're gonna do a snail pose. So you're gonna roll your feet back behind you, and maybe your feet go all the way to the ground, and maybe they don't. If they do, also you can, if they're nearly there, you can take your legs wider. If they're not nearly there, you can bend your knees. You can take your hands to your lower back. And to get into the yang version of this, you want to get active. And the way you get active, if your toes are touching the ground, which pairs are, even though they're slightly off camera, or one of them is, you can start to push your heels back and lift your thighs towards your hamstrings, the back of your legs. You can find other ways. You can elongate your torso if your knees are bent. You can push down with your elbows. You can feel your hands on your lower back supporting you. We're not going to stay here too long. So take this opportunity, breathe into this pose where you're naturally choking yourself a little bit. So it's not an easy breath. And again, remember this gift that we have, this amazing body, this body of ours that not only reaches all the way back into the history of time and the entire cosmos, but that houses consciousness, that without it, we cannot have awareness, have thoughts, have feelings, and be here. Take another full inhale, and then with your exhale, start to roll forward. And we're going to roll into our yin fish. So you roll up, come up onto your elbows, pop your chest up, and then bring the bottoms of your feet together. There's a swallow. And let your head hang back. Great. So if it's really painful for your neck, keep your chin towards your chest and just take a full breath and see what it feels like today, right now, to breathe here. So we're going to hang out in this pose as we do for about 5 minutes. And halfway through, I'm going to cue you to lie all the way down. But if you need to lie all the way down before I tell you to, please do. So what we notice when we start to think about it, when we start to imagine into it, is that, oh my gosh, what a wonder, this incredible, spectacular creation our body is. What a gift. What a wonder. And with this reminder to ourselves, we recognize how much our body is really a co-conspirator an amazing guide and helper in this lifetime for our development, not only of, our thinking and feeling and our personal me stuff, but even that we have this capacity in our physical body to be in relationship with all of our ancestors and to actually heal suffering that has been in the world for eons, longer than our own lifetime. Like, what a wonder that is. And this gift to constantly be together with a wonder, one of the most holy creations. That we can be aware of anew with every inhale, with every exhale. That by actually breathing into our bodies, noticing this exquisite gift and wonder, we are in the practice of love, of loving ourselves, but being able to be more and more capable of loving out into the world. Let your elbows slide to the side and let your upper body softly come down to the ground. You can bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. So our lungs and our heart, they work together. The yin yoga sequence is the same. The meridians are very, very close to one another. Together, they kind of make the shape of the rose cross. But there is this sacred opportunity for love in our physical body while we are alive that we don't get other places, in between death and birth, for instance. What a wonder this body is. What a wonder this life is. Now stretch your legs long and reach your arms up over your head onto the ground. Stretch your body long on the ground. And you're going to take your right foot over to the right corner of your yoga mat. And you're going to hook your left foot over your right foot that you took to the right corner of your yoga mat. If you're doing it opposite, that's okay too. And then take your right hand and pull on your left arm and pull your left arm to the right for banana asana. Take a full sweet inhale in this shape. Feel what it feels like to be alive right here, right now. So today's class has been inspired by a lecture that Thich Nhat Hanh gave. And the lecture, it was like a 13 minutes. You can find it on YouTube. It was so sweet because it's in an answer to the direct question of how do I love myself? So in layman's terms, the short answer is by being present and breathing Every inhale and exhale can be is an act of love. And I always think of it kind of as like our inhale is love for ourselves, or this capacity. Like, it's not easy to receive. And we live in this amazing, wondrous body. Like, you want to remember that you're, you know, driving around and walking around one of the most incredible divine gifts that we see on this earth. But by taking this time in your presence, in your body, to notice your own suffering, to breathe into it, to even generate joy and healing in places when we have the opportunity, is to free and liberate ourselves enough that we can actually be and stand witness to other human beings. And it's through this generation of liberation and joy and witnessing other humans that we actually then will love ourselves. And it's so exquisitely simple that it makes this practice of loving ourselves, of being free to love in the world, available to anyone. Now wiggle yourself back to center. I wouldn't want to let you go without doing both sides of a banana. So you're going to take your left foot to the left, right on your phone. I'm going to move it maybe. And hook your right foot over your left ankle. Stretch your arms up over your head and lovingly pull your right arm to your left now. Take a full, sweet breath into your wondrous body, your miracle. Feel what it feels like to exhale, maybe sending some compassion and love on your exhale. You know, the best self-care and is really having a practice. The discipline to take the time to let your mind and body be in the same place, the same field of awareness. It's not easy. And it takes vigilance and the capacity to return again and again even after, missing shortcomings, time away from your practice. And now wiggle your banana back to center. And just hug in your knees, maybe lift up your face and kiss your knees. Thank you. And we're just going to do a little therapeutic twist to round off our practice today. So hug your knees in and then take your arms out, open to receive, and let your knees slowly drop to your right. I'm just kidding, your left. So you got to dance in the air a little bit. Awesome. Make sure that your knees are as high as your hips. Take a full breath here. And this time, send a sigh out with your exhale and maybe even a little, love shot of something. Thinking of the person you dedicated your class to. And then hug your knees back to center, maybe lifting up your face and kissing your knees again. I mean, just think of it like our body is full of the cosmos and like every plant and mineral and animal. And then slowly drop your knees to the right hand side. Take another full inhale, feeling what it's like to breathe here. So when our lungs are doing well, when our heart is thriving and the meridians connected to them, we have a capacity for wonder, and a capacity for love, joy, and bliss. So bring your knees back to center and stretch your legs long and find your way into Shavasana. So maybe you cover yourself with a blanket. You want to have yourself free from touching other things or people. I mean, of course, you're going to touch the yoga mat. Let your eyes close. Probably got cold. Again, find yourself listening to the sounds around you, staying witness to the present moment, feeling your practice sink into your body. With your next inhale, start to invite your awareness to the edges of your body. Take a full breath in, full breath out, wiggling your fingers and your toes. With your next inhale, stretch your arms long over your head, reaching your whole body as long as it goes. And with your exhale, curl into a ball, squeeze in, and then roll onto your side if that's comfortable for you, or come straight into a seated position. And find yourself in a seated position. Bring your hands to heart center. Close your eyes. You can picture who we've been together with in this moment, physically, mentally, dedicationally. And let's close our class with an Om. Empty your breath first. Take a deep inhale. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love. Woo! And thank you for your time and your attention. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Pear.
Yes,
Thank you all.